Hello, welcome to the United Man. Hope you had a great Christmas. We're going to be going through all the latest transfer news. That's including Jadon Sancho, Erling Haaland, Richarlison, Tyrone Mings and James Maddison. Oh, and Chris Smalling.
The mic, making sure production's tight.
Okay, so we have got to that time of year where the January transfer window is about to open and every man and his dog is going to start being linked to Manchester United. Now, one of those names that's just been plucked out of thin air is Richarlison, Everton's forward. He's not a number 9. He's not a striker that I believe we need or should be coveting. However, that's what the Evening Standard have dropped today. So listen, if there's any traction to it, I'd be very, very surprised. For me, that's one where they've just, as I say, the ink was running dry because there's not been too much progression on other stories. So they've just plucked that one out of thin air. In terms of any traction or any sustainability or any proof or whether or not it's true or not, I can't see anything being part of that deal. So for me, the Richarlison deal is a non-starter. So we've got a bit more to go through in terms of some of the potential transfers being linked with Manchester United. Before we do that, don't forget, if you're new to this channel, to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything with regards to all the latest Manchester United news, fan opinions, reviews, previews, and all the rest of that good stuff. Jadon Sancho has been continually linked with us over the past 12 months. Now, if we do manage to get Champions League this season, now I believe that becomes a viable option for us in the summer. In terms of a January deal, I don't believe that's something that's going to get done in January, especially with our position at the moment. Maybe if we was in Leicester's position, who knows? But where we sit at the moment, for me, the Jadon Sancho deal is a non-starter. Whether or not that would be a deal that would be good for us as well, with the players we already have, bearing in mind we've just bought Daniel James. We've got obviously Mason Greenwood on the rise, obviously Martial and Rashford, and the potential of signing Erling Haaland. Is that a deal we then still go and do in the summer if it's available to us? Speaking of Erling Haaland and where we stand with that, now RB Leipzig was one of the teams that were linked with Erling Haaland. He's actually been and seen them. Their president or director of football has come out and said, yes, we did meet with Erling Haaland. Yes, he was interested. However, the spending power of Manchester United is just too much for us to compete with. Now, backing that up, there's been reports of us putting forth up to £200,000 a week in terms of salary for Haaland. There's been obviously strange reports of £76 million price tag coming. Where that came from, I don't know. You've got, well, pretty much you've got that 17 million and that 20 million as a release clause being in his contract at the moment with Salzburg. So where that £76 million come from, that was being reported in the Daily Star. So 76 million, I'd be very, very surprised. But one thing I do know, Ollie does have Erling Haaland as his #1 guy. James Maddison, that's another one that's come about, which has been knocking around. I'd love that one to happen in January. Unfortunately, I'd be very surprised again if we'd managed to do that business in January. With Leicester's position at the moment, I really can't see them as a club or as a manager. I'd be very, very surprised if they was looking to let Maddison go during the mid-season, let alone come the summer. If we do go for him in the summer, that'll be a fart in our hands as it is. January, I can't see that happening at all. Don't get me wrong, if we was to manage to land him, that would be our number 10 position sorted for the next, 8-9 years. If we was somehow managing to get James Maddison, keep Paul Pogba, that's, a very, very good proposition going forward. We'd only then need to add a specialist central defensive midfielder to the fold, because I don't really think McTominay suits that billing, and I don't think Fred can do that role either. That being said, if we don't sign anyone in January for the central midfield area, it is becoming a serious worry, purely because we've just lost Scott McTominay, whether it be short term or long term. That just shows how light we are in central midfield. Now, McTominay's done well, but I keep saying, look, we don't have the technically gifted players to go alongside Pogba. We don't have a player that's got positionally aware in terms of reading the ball and making interceptions like Michael Carrick did, or going and, you know, winning the ball physically like Kante does. We don't have that type of player. One or the other is great, but we don't have either at the moment. So for me, we need to look to replace in the central midfield areas. Christian Eriksen keeps coming to mind because he's proven in the Premier League. He's not starting for Tottenham, so I think his kind of writing's on the wall. Again, I'll be surprised if we manage to pull that one off, because there's not been any real traction behind the Christian Eriksen deal, as much as I'd love to see that. But we do need to look for an alternative for Paul Pogba should he decide to leave in the summer, which in all honesty I can see happening. The Daily Star also bored us, I suppose. They've dropped Tyrone Mings' name in there today, saying that basically Manchester United's new ethos is to go through young emerging talent, and England have 3 of those to suit that bill, which is supported by Ed Woodward. And those players that the Daily Star named was Jadon Sancho and James Maddison, who we've already spoken about, and Tyrone Mings. Tyrone Mings has done really well for Aston Villa in the Championship, the operative word being Championship there. In the Premier League, he's had his ups and downs, not being consistent in terms of performances. So for me, that's not the type of centre-back that we should be looking to attract to the club. Don't forget, let me know who you think we should be looking on signing, both for the central midfield area, if indeed we should be going for Erling Haaland or another experienced striker, which would probably be my preference, a more experienced striker, proven goal scorer to go up top there. Let me know your views on that one, who we should sign in the central midfield. And also, I believe we're going to need a centre-back. Now, this one is a bit of a contentious point, because we've already got Maguire, who we brought in for 85 million. We've got Lindelof, who's, you know, been up and down. Long-term wise, I don't trust him as our centre-back partner for Maguire. We need a partner for Maguire that complements Maguire with his weaknesses. For me, Tuanzebe is better suited to that. However, he'd still need to prove himself on the Premier League level. He played in Championship for Aston Villa also last season, and he done very well, but is yet to prove himself in the Premier League. It's encouraging that Ollie seems to want to start him next to Maguire in the League Cups and, for example, the Europa League as well. But we'd need to be able to see that on a consistent basis in the Premier League to be able to judge whether that's going to work or not. Now, as I mentioned before, we are light in midfield. Obviously, McTominay's injury highlighting that. So if we are to progress as a club, both in the Premier League and in Europe, we're going to need those top-notch players that can come in and create. They can keep possession under pressure. They can worm their way out of situations which would otherwise seem precarious. We need those Luka Modric's. We need those Marco Verratti's. We need those David Silvas, Kevin De Bruyne's. We need those type of midfielders. Unless we're going to do like a Liverpool and get your workhorse central midfield free, which takes a long time to put into place and for them to work within the system, we've got to go and get ultimately a top quality central midfielder. It's looking more increasing like we're going to lose Paul Pogba. Listen, I don't want to lose Paul Pogba if he was playing at a consistent level, and if he hadn't come out and said what he said in the summer. I wouldn't want to lose Paul Pogba. However, as things stand, he said what he said and he's been inconsistent. I think between now and the end of the season will determine what type of career he has. Because the reason I say that is because if he leaves in the summer, having spent 4 years back at Man United, and he hasn't really performed at that World Cup winning level or his performances at Juventus beforehand, that'll be a taint on his career. Now, if he goes and has a fantastic next 4 or 5 months for Man United, his price tag is going to go through the roof. Whoever wants to come in and buy him is going to have to pay extortionate prices, which is what we want, so we can replace him. And ultimately, well, we'd like to replace in the I know the Glazers would look to pocket that along with their mate Woodward. But yeah, we really do, more so than the centre-back position, we need to make sure our midfield is strong enough to compete on the European stage and Premier League stage, because at the moment you've got Liverpool's midfielders ahead of us, Man City's, Chelsea's, Tottenham's definitely. I'd even go so far as to say Wolves' central midfield is better than ours, with João Moutinho and Ruben Neves as well. So we've got some work to do in terms of making sure we're coming up to that level where we need to be. So yeah, it's just going to be a difficult time ahead, and we're so inconsistent in our performances, but that comes with a lack of experience, I feel, in our team. Let me know what you guys feel, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.